So before the video begins, yes, I did get a haircut. But also, the content of this video may be sensitive to some viewers. So, if you're easily triggered by these types of things, click off now. So before this video begins, you are going to need some context. After finishing boot camp back in 2019, my platoon and I, we had to follow a BVW opleiding. BVW stands for Betuigelen van Woelingen. It's just a Dutch way of saying Riot Police. The course was taught by the Koninklijke Marechaussee, which is the Dutch military police, and it taught us the basics on, well, civil protection and the dispersion of illegal activities, which is a fancy way of saying riot control. And man, those fuckers did not hold back. I remember one guy's riot shield got cracked, and every day I would come back home with fresh cuts, scrapes, and bruises. During this opleiding, or during this course, a few men and I were selected to be trained as BRATRA's, or Brand- en Traangas Specialist. Now, Brand- en Traangas Specialist is basically a specialist dealing with fire, putting out fires, pyrotechnics in general. We did a lot of things with fire, to be honest. Also, we were trained in the effective and safe use of tear gas, okay? As BRATRA's, if the platoon commander wanted to use tear gas to, say, disperse a crowd, he would have to consult with us. Only we could give the go-ahead, and only we were allowed to use it. Now, you're probably thinking, Stan, that's fucking fantastic and all, but why the fuck are you telling us this? Well, as Baratra, I am trained and still certified to use tear gas, and I am also trained with dealing with riots. It's just a long and simple way of saying I know enough about this shit to talk about it. Like most of you, I've also been watching what the hell's been going on in the US, and I've been wondering, what the fuck are these idiots doing? I get it. You may have orders to disperse a crowd by any means necessary, and that does happen. Don't pretend that it doesn't. It does happen. But there are rules to this shit. From what I've been seeing on the fucking news, okay, there are a lot of fuckers who just do not know that. And I'm here to talk about that. Keep in mind, we were trained under Dutch laws, okay, which differ greatly from the laws of the United States, which seems to be shoot and then fucking ask questions later. What I'm trying to say is maybe what I'm saying here cannot be applicable to the United States, so take whatever I'm about to say here with a grain of salt. Now, when it comes to the use of tear gas, we use the HK320 40mm grenade launcher. It has a muzzle velocity of 72 meters per second, which is equivalent to 270 kilometers per hour. In other words, fast. What I'm trying to say here is you cannot fire this thing directly at people. This thing's got enough speed and power to basically crack a skull if you hit someone in the head. So why the fuck am I seeing these fuckers firing these things directly into crowds? No, you're not supposed to do that. We were trained to use the lob method, and you aim up, and depending on the wind, you would adjust your aim to estimate where the canister would land. What would happen is by the time this thing would come down, it would lose its momentum, it would lose its speed, and the worst that can happen when it finally lands is it'll hit someone in the head and they'll get a really bad bump, which will hurt like a motherfucker. But hey, it beats getting your skull cracked open. The proportional use of force. Nearly everybody in any military force or anybody in law enforcement has heard about this, but it seems that some folk need some kind of friendly goddamn reminder. To put this into basic terms, let me give you an example. Let's say me and my squadron, we get an order to form a defensive perimeter around an important building. Let's say a comm center. In that case, I'm basically gonna have to just stand there and shut up. Remember, people are protesting because they're angry. And since they're angry, they're gonna come right at your face, okay? They're gonna be right in your face. They are going to be screaming. They are going to be poking at you. Some will even try to pull you and stuff like that. As a member of law enforcement, as a symbol of authority in general, okay? You have to have some level of self-control here and some level of empathy. These people are angry and they have every single right to be angry. So I'm not gonna fucking bash someone with my riot shield the minute they start poking at me, alright? You warn them. You try to calm them down. You try to reason with them, and then you warn them again, alright? And if they cross a certain line, you are allowed to use a certain level of force, alright? Somebody fucking shoves me, I'm not gonna pull out my baton and start beating the shit out of this dude. That's not how this shit works. If I did that and I was caught on tape, I would get court-martialed so fucking fast. Not only would I lose my job, but I would also spend years in prison because of that. From what I've been seeing, you just look at a riot officer the wrong way, and that's enough to get you a fucking an ass beating. This is a note to the protesters as well. Okay, this is a note for you guys. If you're gonna go protest, it doesn't matter if you're white, black, whoever. Don't go shoving a riot officer and expect nothing to happen to you. It doesn't work that way. One thing that people are also seem to be forgetting is, are the 3 Ds, okay? De-escalate, de-escalate, and de-escalate. 90% of the time, the whole point of a riot control squadron, 90% of the time, is to make sure a protest doesn't get out of hand. Now, what do I mean by this? At the end of the day, we don't want to arrest people. At the end of the day, we do not want to detain people. At the end of the day, we want things to go smoothly. We don't want any injuries. What I've been seeing, and I'm pretty sure what most of you have been seeing anyway, is the polar opposite of what I just said. I've been seeing a lot of footage of riot police using a disproportionate amount of force against people who literally didn't do anything to provoke them. They didn't do anything they didn't even instigate anything, but they still got their asses kicked. They still got injured. Why? That's a recipe for disaster, because you just given the crowd a reason to go on the offensive. Okay, they will not hesitate to retaliate. And what you'll end up with? You'll end up with a situation that could have been avoided. Arrests that should never been made. Injuries that should never have occurred. Look, not every cop, not every police department, not everyone is guilty of the things I just mentioned here. Alright? But people are angry. They have every right to be angry. Now don't come to me with that fucking bullshit. Oh no, it's just a few bad apples. This isn't the case of a few bad apples. This isn't the case of a few bad incidences or isolated incidences. Sorry. We are talking 300 years of oppression. 300 years of pent-up rage and anger that finally seems to be boiling over. Now, to be honest, the big question that we should be asking ourselves now is this enough for proper change? Okay, will this be enough for actual change to come? Or will things die down? Will they start to simmer? Only for it to boil over again someday in the future? I don't know. I guess only time would tell. If you are participating in these protests, I implore you to keep it peaceful and also stay safe. Remember, we are still in the middle of a pandemic, and you can't exactly protest anything if you're dead. Stay safe, but do not stay silent. This is Stan the Man, signing off.